So, good morning. Good morning. So please find your seats and prepare for this morning's service. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Columbia. Our minister is the Reverend Stephen Robinson, alive, kicking, and in place. And my name is Jessica Cross, and I am your service leader of the day. To those of you here with us in the sanctuary, please be advised the service is being streamed on YouTube. And on the website, there is a link to a Zoom event. We would still, of course, rather have you here in person. Make sure you read the announcements in your printed order of service. Also, be sure to read the weekly events that are emailed to you each Thursday, as well as on the website. I urge you to keep the website open as a tab on your internet browser so you can keep up with what's happening. An announcement for parents. If you need to occupy your young folk, we do have toys and books in the back of the social hall. If you have questions about where your children go or what they can do, ask. I think Bethany is here. Is Jonathan here? I didn't see Jonathan. Okay. And now we have an announcement from our resident physician, Amelia.
All right. This announcement deserves me to wear the COVID SAR hat, which I never wore in public, but they were so kind to give me, so I'm going to put it on. It's the first time I wear it in public. I think so some people are worried because there's been a few cases of COVID, okay? So this is just a reminder. There's nothing that changes. We're going to use the same protocols here of common sense, and I just want to reassure people, sure, there were some cases here, and, I'm not going to share, obviously, names or anything like that, but it's one of those things that happens. We had a potluck here, but I'm sure people go out and have, meals in restaurants and go to other places. So I haven't investigated the event, so I don't have any data. We cannot speculate that it was something that was transmitted from here. But I just want to make people aware that this little guy is still around and that, you have to be careful. And I see people wearing the mask. We're an all-inclusive community. We welcome you with mask or without mask. If you're at risk for, getting sick, if you catch COVID, just wear it and be safe. So that's all. Nothing changes, but I just wanted to remind people that, we should not lower our guard because, Unfortunately for me, there's a lot of job security with COVID, so it's going to keep me busy for the near and longer future. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Emilio. Today's flowers are placed by Regina Mooney in honor of Mother's Day. Mothers past, current, expectant, and for all who have a mothering heart. And that's genderless, I would guess, a mothering heart. And now please silence your electronic devices as we center ourselves for today's service and listen to the prelude.
This morning we're going to begin with a congregational hymn. So I will invite all of you to look at your teal hymnals and turn to number 1051. We Are. This is music by Issei Barnwell, and I'll invite you to stand as you're willing and able to join in singing. Just a couple of notes. As we begin singing this, you're going to see a few things in the music that help you sort of navigate where you're going to be repeating. Don't feel overwhelmed by that. It's very repetitive. If you're not sure where you are, listen to my words and keep going along to that section. But I will tell you, as you look at hymn number 1051, the first two lines will repeat, and the last two lines on page 4 will repeat. And then you'll also see this whole section that we sing starting on page 1, line 3. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. When we get to page 3, and there's these little dots at the end of line 3, we're going to jump back to that spot.
Thank you, Anna. Just lovely in melody and word. Our congregational affirmation, please stand and join me in the congregational affirmation as found in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant with one another. Please be seated. So welcome, all. Unitarian Universalism is a diverse and non-creedal religion. We are a covenantal religion, which means that we don't have to believe the same in order to treat each other with respect, equity, compassion, and dignity. Our community is based on deeds, not creeds. As Unitarian Universalists, we side with love embracing all people, regardless of age, color, race, socioeconomic status, physical ability, or religious background. We have been officially designated by the Unitarian Universalist Association a welcoming congregation that welcomes LGBTQ+ individuals. We especially welcome families and young children, those needing special assistance with caring for or entertaining the children will find someone in the back of the social hall willing to help. And in terms of help, this place doesn't go without lots of help. Let's recognize some of that help. Board members, please stand. Notice that they wear green name tags, and they always welcome your comments. Committee chairs, also please stand. Without the work of committees, we'd be absolutely sunk. Any of you who might like to help committees might consider doing that. At this time, we would like to recognize any guests or visitors who are with us today. So visitors, if you are willing and able, please rise and share with us your name and where you are from, or if you have guests with you, please feel free to introduce them. Please wait for the microphone, which Amelia will walk around. So.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a guest, but I attended for a few years here. I moved to Denver a couple years ago, but I'm in town visiting for Mother's Day, and I brought my friend Michaela. So, hi.
Thank you, Olivia and Kayla.
We're John and March, and we're visiting Regina for Mother's Day, and we're from Spartanburg.
Welcome, John and March.
Good morning. This is Bill and Lynn Barley. We have been visitors before here, and our faith journey keeps calling us back to come again. So here we are, looking again to find the end of the road where we need to park ourselves. Thank you.
Very good, Bill and Lydia. Anyone else? Brave souls? Thank you, Amelia. Visitors, you don't have to, but we'd love to have you fill out a visitor card and put it in a collection plate. You'll find one in the back of the chair in front of you. That way we can send you our newsletter and emails. We will not come uninvited to your door. Invitations, however. We encourage everyone to wear name tags so we can get to know each other better. At this time, let us take a moment to greet each other. So turn to those around you, offer a pleasant greeting with a handshake, a fist bump, a big smile. Thank you. There'll be time to talk afterwards as well. The service is sort of divided into two parts, and one is sort of welcomes and announcements, sort of a secular part. But then there is another part to the service, and we mark the division between the secular and the sacred by the lighting of our chalice. Stephen is going to light our chalice this morning. Thank you. Spirit of light and life, come unto us.
I invite the adult choir up to join in singing. This morning, we'll be sharing a piece called the 23rd Psalm, dedicated to my mother. And this is by Bobby McFerrin. It is based on the 23rd Psalm from the Bible, but with new text that should fit beautifully today as we recognize the spirit of mothering and care around us.
Thank you. This morning we join congregations all across the country and really at the organizing of groups like Moms Demanding Action to set aside this Mother's Day in 2023 as a day of contemplation, a day of mourning, a day of prayer around gun violence. I can't think of a better way to honor the role and the work that mothers play in our society and in our lives, those with hearts, as we talked about, mothering hearts, than to demand action, demand safety, demand a world that is safe for us all, and especially our children. In that spirit, our opening words today come from a poem written by Brian Bilston several years ago that continues to be, unfortunately, very relevant. His poem is entitled, "America is a Gun." England is a cup of tea. France, a will of ripened brie. Greece, a short, squat olive tree. America is a gun. Brazil is football on the sand. Argentina, Maradona's hand. Germany, an Oompa band. America is a gun. Holland is a wooden shoe. Hungary, a goulash stew. Australia, a kangaroo. America is a gun. Japan is a thermal spring. Scotland is a highland fling. Oh, better to be anything than America as a gun. For our story for all ages today, I don't think we have any children to come down, but I still would like to share, especially for those who may be watching on video. What I would share is a picture of this woman that lived from 1819 to 1910 into her 90s, and her name is Julia Ward Howe. Does anyone know what Julia Ward Howe is famous for? What? Girl Scouts, there we go. Cookies, okay, all right. All right, there was a proclamation for Mother's Day. She also wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and when you learn a little bit more about her, you might see that song in a different light as well. Along with her husband Samuel, she was a mother to Julia, Florence, Henry, Laura, Maud, and Samuel Jr. And in 1870, completely grieving a heart of war and the experience of war in this country, she wrote a proclamation for mothers demanding nonviolence in 1870. We're going to read that a little bit later in the service, but I wanted you to meet her because she called mothers to commit to creating a world that is safe for our children. And it's very interesting as we read her words, even though she wrote them over 150 years ago, to read her words and to still see how powerful, how potent, how important they are to our culture today and how much we need to hear them. So what we communicate to our children here at the UUCC is that we join people like this in history that are absolutely committed to making our world a safer place for them and doing all that we can, exhausting all of our efforts, not giving in to futility, but exhausting all of our efforts to create the world that is safe for them. This time we move to a part of our service of Candles of Community, and I invite you, if you have a joy or a concern to share, to please come and share that briefly and light a candle and place it here in our smaller chalice.
Good morning. I'm Linda Brennison, and today I'm lighting a candle of concern for my sister Joanna, who had a serious woodworking accident and partially amputated 2 of her fingertips last Sunday, and that's bad enough. But we've been unable to secure an appointment with a hand surgeon until this coming Wednesday, a week and a half since the accident. So our healthcare system is in need of work, to say the least, but please keep Joanna in your prayers. This has been a really traumatic injury. Thank you.
This is a candle of concern. It's the middle of the month, and I just recently found out that May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm also concerned about those people that are struggling with issues. If you're struggling, seek a therapist, find a support group, or reach out to a friend. And I urge everybody in here to do something for the rest of this month and beyond. Something small, just to take care of yourself, whether it be turning up your favorite song on the way home from work or treating yourself to a second, piece of birthday cake, whatever. Something to make you happy. Just exercise some self-love and some self-care.
Good morning, I'm Jenny Verne. Those of you who know me know that I grew up in a quite rural section of southern Ohio, where we were quite spread out. But it happened, as so often happens in Appalachia, that literally across the road from this little farm we lived on was a little farm that my uncle lived on. And I grew up with my best friend being my cousin, who was a month younger than me and lived kind of half a mile down the road. No, quarter of a mile, I don't know. Anyway, when we were home in Ohio last week, I got to see my cousin for the last time. Sandy passed this week. She was a friend, a delightful person. So just say a little prayer, send some vibes to her brothers who have survived her. Thank you.
I'm Anna, and this is Lindbergh, and we just wanted to give you a heartfelt thank you for the beautiful, beautiful baby shower here yesterday. I want to say it means so much to me to feel so held in the spirit of your love and caring, and that you're so open in welcoming Lindbergh into that, and also especially for welcoming this new baby, who today, as I feel like it's my first Mother's Day, I sort of feel he's held in this space between worlds. And I find myself appreciating and cherishing the beautiful and caring things that exist in the world we share. And your love is definitely included in that. So thank you very much.
Our last candle we light is always for those joys and concerns that are held silently. Please take just a few seconds of deep breaths and remember all that you've heard, all that you've felt as those joys and concerns have been shared. As we prepare for our offering this morning, a quick reminder that our Share the Plate recipient is Planned Parenthood, and Allison will be back with us next Sunday due to the Memorial Day holiday at the end of the month to share a little bit about the work of Planned Parenthood. This time I invite our ushers to come and receive our morning offering.
Our offertory music is The Memory by Nancy Rumble.
Receive the offering today, a symbol of our commitment to our good work. I'm really glad that we took this opportunity on Mother's Day to join with faith congregations all across the country of setting aside this day as a day of a commitment to ending gun violence together and doing all that we can. I'm also thankful to organizations like Moms Demand Action that organize such events like this that can spread nationwide and unite people together on this common ground. Normally, when we have an event organized by a group like Moms Demand Action, I would say, hey, we should invite someone from that organization to come and share a few minutes before the sermon. But it is Mother's Day holiday, and so, wait, we have someone here. Bethany, you're here. Bethany is a member and organizer of Moms Demand Action. Would you be willing to share?
Hi, well, thank you so much for asking.
That was totally impromptu as well.
I'm not prepared at all. So for those of you who know me, I want to set the record straight. No, I did not use ChatGPT to create what I'm about to say. Some of you know my daughter Sophia, and some of you don't. My journey with Moms Demand Action starts with my daughter Sophia, because when she was about, 10 or 12 years old, she said, hey Mom, I want to go and protest at the circus. Now, protesting was the way I raised my kids, so it was not a surprise to me that she wanted to do this. We'd gone up to the state capitol plenty of times with really fabulous signs, and we've never protested at the circus before, so that was a little unnerving. I was like, Sophia, I don't think we should do this, because there's gonna be a lot of people that like the circus, and they're gonna be unhappy to see us, and they're probably gonna throw tomatoes, and I did everything that a wise mom would do, and I distracted her that first year. But next year came around, and Sophia was very ready. She was not gonna take no for an answer. So I thought about it a lot, and civic engagement is so very important to me. And I said, okay, we talked about it as a family, and I had faith that this was the right thing to support my daughter and engage her in her where she wants to follow her heart. And I had hope that nobody was gonna throw tomatoes at us. So this went on actually for many years. We went to the circus, and much to my surprise, when we went there, there was a whole community of people there. And they looked at this little kid and they said, oh my God, we love you. Can you keep coming back? And they just embraced her. And even though she was just young, they said, hey, what do you want to do next year? And they enabled her to jump into a leadership position. And she just figured out who she was by going year after year after year, until the circus stopped having animals, which was phenomenal. And we all celebrated, and we really realized, this did make a difference, because public opinion was changing. We realized that because people who were going in would stop and chat with us and get some information, and when they came out, there were a number of people who came up to us and said, oh my God, I never thought of looking at the bullhook or the whip. And yeah, you're right, I wouldn't do that to my dog or my cat. And people came and stood outside the circus with us as years went on. So it was good, but it was, in my mind, I always thought, public opinion is changing, but every time we went up to the state capitol, laws weren't changing, right? I was like, are those politicians ever looking at us? Do they know we're here? I really felt like I was on the outside looking in. Flash forward to when that kid was now in college, and she said, hey, Mom, you know that group that we've heard about, Moms Demand Action? Well, they're here in Columbia, and they are doing an event where they're going to be raising some money and some supplies for the women's homeless shelter. Why don't we go? You know, your kid says to you, let's go do something, and you drop everything and you do it, right? Like, yeah. So we went off to the hangar. We had a couple of beers. We met some fabulous people there, women and men, with these red shirts on, and immediately I thought, oh my God, this is a really intelligent group of people. They're activists, they're committed, and they're connected to other organizations that I really agree with as well. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna learn a little bit more with this group. And all right, fast forward 3 years now, I have been working with Moms Demand Action, and I have to say, protesting is one of the smaller things that we do. I mostly table to educate the public. I have given out a scary amount of these babies. These are gun locks. I want to tell all of you with kids and grandkids that the majority of South Carolinians do not lock up their guns. Be aware. I want to tell you, if you need any of these, I can get these for you. So not only do we table, but we go to subcommittees, we go to the full session, we talk to politicians, we go to talk to law enforcement. And I have just learned so much. I'm not gonna bore you with all the statistics, but I do wanna tell you that statistics say that the majority of people that are not on board with safe gun laws have never been affected by gun violence. A couple of statistics is if these laws that we are fighting right now at the State House, if they are passed and we have less safe gun laws, our homicide rates are probably gonna go up by 11%. Right now, in the United States, that we need to remember that gun violence is the leading cause of death for children and teens. That's more than drowning, more than cancer. Christian Anderson spoke at the pulpit, I think it was last Sunday or the Sunday before, and he was phenomenal. And he also said that protesting is very valuable, but more important than protesting is voting and getting engaged. I have a lot of hope by working with Moms Demand Action because this is a nonpartisan, multi-faith group of men and women who don't give up, and I have a lot of faith that public opinion is changing and it's eventually going to go to our politicians. Now, fast forward to last week. There was a combined coalition over at the state capitol, and I showed up with my rainbow mask. I had on my black shirt. All right, this is to stand up with the Black Caucus against the censorship bills that were going to be heard. On top of that shirt, I had on my Moms Demand Action shirt to stand up against the gun laws that we hope will not materialize. And then on top of that, I had on my Planned Parenthood shirt, right? And I was not alone. I was there prepared, and I was prepared with a lot of other people. We were all ready to spend the entire day. So I didn't spend the whole entire day because if any of you were following, you will know that, around 5 o'clock I left. I had to get home. And I turned on my computer because, I still stay connected and I'm watching, and a friend called me and said, "Oh my God, do you hear what's going on?" And I said, "No, what?" She said, the women, they're filibustering. I said, "What?" So Republicans and Democratic women took the floor and are not giving it up. And when I turned it on, and I said, "Oh, that's Mia McLeod. She's my senator, awesome." And what surprised me was that when I turned it on, I heard my words being reflected back at me. You see, earlier that day, somebody from Planned Parenthood walked up to me with a blank form, and she said, "Hey, can you fill this form out?" And I thought, you know what? Mia, Senator McLeod, she's going to vote the same way that I would want her to, so I didn't think that that was something that would be valuable. But then I thought about what I've learned working with Moms Demand Action. And what I learned was that sometimes our senators and our representatives don't have enough time to do the research. They don't know all about the different bills. Sometimes I lean into us to give them talking points. So I said to myself, you know what? I've heard a lot of compelling reasons why we should keep abortion accessible in South Carolina. What I have not heard yet was the financial aspect of this. So I wrote to Senator McLeod and I said, you know, we settled over here in South Carolina to be close to Fort Jackson. We're now retired. We have a retirement income. I talked to her about my kids and how they have higher degrees from USC. One has already left, and 2 more are probably going to follow. I talked to her about the brain drain, and I was so surprised to hear her using my words. So it made me feel good to hear my words. And it gave me faith that this work is useful, this work matters. And it gave me hope for the future because I no longer felt like I was on the outside looking in. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany. Your words really resonate with me. Someone asked when I was talking about our theme for this day, what do you hope to accomplish with a service that's joining other congregations and focusing on contemplation, repentance, prayer, a commitment to ending gun violence? And so my response was, well, I hope to accomplish not getting fired for doing it, for one. So we got so far so good, right? But also, I don't think we have to make a big stretch of what we want to accomplish. Contemplation, for me, is the key. To ask the question, why is this happening and what are we doing about it? And can we commit ourselves to doing something different? In a long strand of line, maybe Mothers Demanding Action can go back and trace their roots all the way back to the person that we brought just a few minutes ago in our service. So I remind you of Julia Ward Howe, and I want you to hear her entire proclamation that she made in 1870. She writes, "Arise, all women who have hearts, whether your baptism be that of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we've been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We women of one country will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure others. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council. Let them meet first to bewail and commemorate the dead. Let them then solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace, each learning after his own time the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God. In the name of womanhood and humanity, I earnestly ask that a General Congress of Women without limit of nationality be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient, and at the earliest period consistent with its objects to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, and the great and general interest of peace. If that is the first time that we have ever heard those words, then I ask you the same question I asked myself. Why is that the first time I've ever heard that proclamation? In the spirit of Howe's proclamation, we are joining congregations for a national day of mourning, of prayer, of action, of anger, of contemplation, recognizing that in this country, we have lots of problems, and we can all identify what the problems are, but we have to acknowledge that we have a gun problem in our country. Preparing for today, I read a great history book written by history professor Adam Winkler, who is professor of constitutional law at the University of California, who wrote an entire history in our country from very humble beginnings to where we are currently today on the battle over the right to bear arms in America. He outlines the rise of the NRA and the NRA's connection to the right-wing movements that eventually became an organization that only centrally focused on promoting the rights of people to bear arms and battling any kind of legislation that hinted at gun control. A change for the NRA that originally, in its roots, was all about safety and control. He also outlines the other side of the aisle and the movements that have come of total disarmament, which also seems futile. When you think about it, in our population in this country and our population of guns, there's one for each of us. There are as many guns in the U.S. as people. Some will say that we are returning to the wild, wild west. I grew up watching Westerns with my family, and of course I've grown up with those images of cowboys and old towns like Tombstone and Dodge City and those images. And it's easy for us to say as we look at particularly states that are moving back in time, it seems, to gun laws and open carry laws. And as that legislation is being talked about here in the state of South Carolina, currently being debated. The thing that is tempting for us to say is, man, we are resorting back to the wild, wild west here in this country. And I would agree with you until I read Adam Winkler's book, because he argues that the wild, wild west might say to the 21st century, we are nothing like you. He would argue that the wild, wild west was much safer and actually had better gun control laws than we do today. Hollywood has made a whole image of what the West looked like out of this insatiable desire for it to be something that it is not. Let's test our ingrained spirit in this. If you don't agree with me, or if you feel safe here, then you should get the heck out of, see, it's ingrained in us, right? Get the heck out of Dodge City. Dodge City, at its most dangerous time in its history, from 1877 to 1886, had 15 murders in 10 years. Its most violent year was in 1878 with 5 murders, and most of the years had none, and at most 1. Many of us have watched the many images in Hollywood of Tombstone, Arizona, and the famous gunfight. The most violent year that Tombstone ever had was also 5 killings in 1881, 3 of which were the McClary brothers, the 2 McClary brothers, and Billy Clinton, that were killed in the gunfight at OK Corral. The gunfight at OK Corral, as a matter of fact, was an organized attempt to disarm members of the Cowboys by Wyatt Earp and his 2 brothers. It was literally an attempt to enact gun control laws in Tombstone, Arizona. That's a completely different image of what we have in our minds of what the West looked like. From Adam Winkler's book. Frontier towns handled guns the way a Boston restaurant today handles overcoats in the winter. New arrivals were required to turn in their guns to authorities in exchange for something like a metal token. And certain places required people to check their guns at one of the major entry points to towns or leave their weapons with their horses at the livery stables. A visitor arriving in Wichita, Kansas in 1873 would have seen signs declaring, and we have daguerreotype images of these signs that say, "Leave your revolvers, all of them, at the police headquarters and get a check." There's also a grainy black and white photograph of Dodge City taken around 1879 that shows a huge wooden billboard posted in the middle of the main road through town that says, "The carrying of firearms is strictly prohibited." Visitors are welcome, but your guns are not. So I think it's safe to say that the citizens of Dodge City in 1877 may say they need to get the heck out of Columbia, South Carolina, or any city in our current U.S. So where does this all come from? Of course, Hollywood has highlighted these images and set them in our minds for certain reasons that we can dig into the philosophy and the psychology of our culture. By the 1900s, cowboys, the images of cowboys, 95%, I think was the number he said, would admit they've never, one, seen anyone killed and never even considered killing another person. Think about that. Compare that with your image of cowboys growing up. 95% say I've never even seen someone killed or contemplated killing another person. So what do we have going on in our culture? Obviously, we do have a gun problem, and we do need gun legislation, and we do need to figure out a solution to that problem. I don't know what it is, but I do know we need to figure it out. Underlying that, we heard last week as Chuck lit a candle, that we have a mental health problem, and certainly we can identify underlying that gun problem is a mental health problem as well. And I think underlying all of that, we have a violence problem in our culture. The journalist Mustafa Bayoumi has done research around violence in the US, and he says, as it turns out, the US has 57 times as many shootings as the other 6 G7 countries combined. We have a violence problem. And he writes, when will we face the fact that this is a country that has been baked in its own violence, much of it's racist in intent and effect? Guns and violence were integral to controlling, patrolling, and terrorizing the enslaved black people of this country. Likewise, there would be no broken treaties, forced removals, and land theft of indigenous territory without violence and guns. And we see how all of our laws support that and are based on that fact. Every day, America's obsession with guns and violence terrifies its citizens, but it also reflects its genocidal and racist past. So I hear the words calling us today, a day of mourning, a day of prayer, a day of contemplation, a day of action. But there's another word in there that we don't use a lot in Unitarian Universalist churches. There's also a call for a day of repentance. And that's a word that Christians grew up with for sure. Repent. It's a word that is intended to remind you that you are doing something wrong and you have to change your ways. A day of repentance. If it's true that our obsession with violence today reflects our own genocidal and racist past, then it requires us to embark in a day of repentance together and choose something different. We have to choose to be healthy. We have to choose to do what we can to battle the disease in our culture. And unfortunately, getting healthy is kind of simple. I have a great doctor that I dislike because he constantly tells me how simple it is to be healthy. He sits with me with his arrogance and wisdom and loving spirit and says, you know what? Getting healthy, you gotta ask yourself two questions. What are you willing to give up that's helping you not be healthy? And what are you willing to add that will help you be healthier? Could it be that simple? If we're talking about a disease that has really defined our country and our insatiable desire for violence, could it be that we need to choose what to give up and what to add? We recognize that the disease is there. The disease is in our culture. Listen to the words of the leading anchor on a major news organization. He writes in a tweet, "A couple of weeks ago, I was watching video of people fighting on the street in Washington. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid and started pounding the living shit out of him. It was 3 against 1 at least. Jumping a guy like that is dishonorable, obviously. It's not how white men fight. Yet suddenly, I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they'd hit him harder and even kill him. I really wanted them to hurt the kid so bad I could taste it." We have a disease in our culture, and we have to here commit to the cure. So what are we willing to give up that constantly keeps violence alive in our culture? It may be some things that we really enjoy. Are we willing to give them up if they are continuing to add to the violence problem in our culture? What are we willing to add to our lives together? You and I have to commit to be healthier as a culture. I don't think it's going to fix itself. You can't just hope. But we can hang on until it dies completely. But we are about love, we are about justice, and we are about peacemaking. And you and I have the skills and the ability and the motivation to get to the source of this cultural anger and disease and eradicate it if we're willing to really commit to being a healthier culture. What are we willing to give up? What are we willing to add on this day of mourning, a day of prayer, a day of repentance, a day of contemplation?
I invite you to join in singing our closing hymn, number 409. If you'll stand and join in singing as you're willing and able.
Sweet
those who are putting the YouTube up, if we could like maybe make it where my physician's office can check that. Realized I called him arrogant during my sermon. Might not get welcomed back. So can you work on that, David? I'll give you his email address and you just block it. But from a sign in his office, there's a sign in my doctor's office that says, "You're not going to find your health on the same path you lost it." Listening to this song and our commitment to the next generation, may we use this Mother's Day here in 2023 to renew our commitment to let this chalice burn brightly, fueled by love, peace, and justice. May it light a new path toward health and transform our culture.
I invite you to join in singing our congregational benediction.
Those guests who are with us today, it's great to see you back from Denver, Olivia and Michaela, is that right? All right, welcome. Hopefully get to stick around and spend some time with you. John and March here with Regina as well, so glad that you're here again. And Bill and Lynn, are you back there? Hopefully today is where you put your roots down, right? And choose to take this path with us if you're willing. For all that are here, we're going to have a brief budget meeting presentation after a little bit of time in the social hall. And so if you'd like to stick around for that, everyone is welcome to do that. It's a preview of the budget that's going to be voted on in June. Other than that, spend some time greeting each other and spending some time socializing together, especially those who are guests with us. Thank you for being here for our service.